Okay, Tesla from Manila, 15A1. We said yesterday about if you have a roof that was made of boards, and these boards, we said, Rashi says these boards are 4 tvachim wide. So these boards are the average size boards that people use for their house. Morning, Jaime.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Morning. So we are on Tesla from Allah, 15A, 15A1. We were the Mishnah here discusses a roof of a house that was partially constructed. You created a roof for your house and you put the boards, but you didn't put the plaster on the boards, between the boards. Now, the issue, number one, for the fact that you made these boards for a house, that automatically makes it invalid schach, that the schach is not kosher schach. That's issue number one. Issue number two is the size of these boards. Rashi says the boards here are the standard boards that a person makes for one's roof of one's house. Standard boards are 4 tvachim wide, about 12 to 16 inches wide. And we had a general discussion in the Gemara earlier. What's the law on such boards? Are such boards invalid schach? Meaning to say, if you would go ahead and make your own sukkah, could you make a sukkah using boards 4 tvachim wide? Is there a concern that if you use such boards for your sukkah, people will come to use the boards of these boards which is your ceiling of your house, and they'll come to think, what's the difference between me sitting in a sukkah with these 4 tefach wide boards, or me sitting in my house with which I also have a 4 tefach wide board? And people won't realize that there's a difference between sitting in your house and sitting in a sukkah. People won't realize that the difference, even though they're both technically the boards came originally from the ground, and they're flat wood boards that don't receive contamination. So people don't realize that it's still a problem using the boards of your house, the ceiling of your house, because the Torah wants it that you're supposed to be going in and sitting in a sukkah, a structure that was built for the purpose of protecting from shade, protecting from the sun, to provide shade, not a structure that is there as a house. That's not what the sukkah is supposed to be. The sukkah is not supposed to be to live in a sukkah means you have to leave your house. And you can't live in your house, use a house ceiling as a sukkah, even if the ceiling of your house is technically kosher schach. A person will create a house, and this is his house all year long, and he makes a house, even if the materials are kosher schach, he can't sit in that because that's his house. It's not a sukkah. Not if it's made for the purpose of a house. So now here the situation in our Mishnah, we said, was that you have this partially built house. It was not plastered yet. Then it would have been completely built. Plaster would be an item that's not kosher material for schach, because it doesn't necessarily come from the ground originally. But here you don't have the plaster. You might have nails, that knock the boards together, but you have, morning Huda, welcome back. So we have this roof that was made for the purpose of a house. And now what do I got to do here to make this structure kosher now for a sukkah? So the Mishnah said, Rabbi Yehuda says that Beis Shammai requires, the language of the Mishnah implies that he requires two things have to be done. Number one, he has to loosen every board that's on in the structure. The boards here are serving as a ceiling, and he has to go ahead and loosen each one. Remove the nails, many understand. Remove this and move each board. By moving each board above you is as if you're building it from scratch. Moving each one is like putting it up from fresh, and Also, he requires another thing. He doesn't say that that's sufficient just to move the boards. He says you also have to remove boards, not only move the boards the way the Mishnah implies, you also have to remove boards. Remove boards and put in kosher schach in its place. So Beis Shammai is saying that there's a problem here, that this does not serve as kosher schach. So that's number one. Beis Shammai says these boards that are above you, that are 4 tefach wide, are not kosher schach, and therefore you have to get some other schach material here. And also, he seems to indicate you also have to move the boards. And the Gemara is going to ask the question, why does Beis Shammai require both? If the issue here is not kosher schach here, the boards that are above you are not kosher, why move them at all? Just put kosher schach. That's going to be the Gemara's question. Beis Hillel does not require you to go ahead and bring new schach. Beis Hillel requires either one. Either bring new schach here, place a certain amount of new schach in the structure, or just move every board. According to Beis Hillel, every board, if you move every board, you're good. Because Beis Hillel obviously holds that these boards that are 4 tefach wide boards are technically kosher schach, and therefore the only issue here is that you have to deal with is that it was not built for the purpose of a sukkah. It was built for the purpose of a house. And therefore you remove that disqualification by moving every board that's above you, and that's as if you're now building it for the purpose of a sukkah. It's no longer being built as a house by moving every board. Is that clear, Adam? Very good. So this would be the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, according to according to Rav, that says that Rabbi Yehuda holds that even a 4 tefach wide board is not a problem. Correct. We had two opinions in a 4 tefach wide board. One opinion was a 4 tefach wide board, everybody agrees is no good. And they're arguing between a 3 and a 4 tefach wide board. And we had another opinion that says that a 4 tefach wide board, that even arguing on a 4 tefach wide board, that there's an opinion and an understanding of the Mishnah, the other Mishnah, that Rabbi Yehuda says you could use boards. Good morning, Max. Rabbi Yehuda says you could use boards as your schach. There's an opinion that says even a 4 tefach wide board you could use for your schach. Why? Because people, because you don't have to be make them exera. You don't have to be concerned that if you make for your sukkah a 4 tefach wide board for your ceiling, people are going to think you could use the ceiling of your house. There's an opinion that says that we're not worried about that concern. This Mishnah seems to be going like that opinion. The Gemara is going to address the other opinion. Okay, that was Beis Hillel's opinion. And Rameya says no. Rameya comes in and says, like what Adam was saying, that's really Rameya's opinion, moving the boards won't do you anything. Because the boards inherently are not are too wide. You have to actually remove some of the boards and put kosher schach. Okay, that is what's going on in the Mishnah. A lot's going on. Everybody got it? Is it clear? So that's what's going on in the Mishnah. Comes the Gemara. Now up to the Gemara. We're starting the Gemara. Bishlama on 15a1 Gemara. Bishlama, the Gemara says, Beis Hillel. I understand Beis Hillel's reason. Beis Hillel says, you know what? Either one. Either move every board, and that will be like you're making it from fresh. It's like you're creating a sukkah. Or put a new schach. You don't have to move every board. Put a new schach in a way that you'll have next to each other 7 by 7 of kosher schach. You'll have 7 tvachim of kosher schach. And as long as you're not more than 4 amot from the wall, we could say the wall could extend and you would be good. To be special on Beis Hillel, the Gemara says, good morning, welcome everybody back. Especially Simon, we miss you, Simon. Okay. The other members have been here. Bishlam Beis Hillel, Taimayu Mishum Taseh v'lo min ha'asuri. Beis Hillel holds that a sukkah you have to make it. When you build this, when you build the sukkah, when you put up the sukkah, when you put up the schach, it's made in a kosher fashion. It has to be made in a kosher fashion. Not if it's made not if it's made for the purpose of a sukkah. It says you have to go ahead and you have to pass this, you have to make the sukkah in a kosher fashion for a sukkah. And if you went ahead and you made the sukkah, you made the structure not for a sukkah, so it's not it's not kosher. It's not kosher. That's his logic. That the pasuk says ta'aseh v'lo mana asui, and I'll read to you. It says that, you know, when the Torah says you put up a sukkah, you know, this is what we said, one of the Gemaras we had earlier. There's an idea that you have to, when you put up the schach, that's making the sukkah kosher. Morning, Dr. Navid, and welcome back. And it has to be made for the purpose of a sukkah. But if you didn't make it for the purpose of sukkah, now that you decide you want to change your mind, now you originally made this structure for the purpose of a house. And now you say, you know what? Sukkah is coming. I might as well use this structure for sukkah. It has it's kosher, you know, it's kosher schach. According to the opinion that says the flat wooden boards are not a problem. So I'll use this for sukkah. But it wasn't made that way. It wasn't made for a sukkah. And therefore it wasn't made to provide shade. It was made for a house. And therefore you have to remake this structure. So what do you do to remake the structure, Dr. Navid? If you made it not for the purpose of a sukkah, you have to go ahead, what Basila says, just to bring everybody up to date. We have a structure, we have a ceiling that was made out of boards that was made for the purpose of a house, which is not kosher. You can't use it. Now, not made for a house, it's not going to be kosher for a sukkah. Now you want to go ahead and make it kosher for a sukkah. What do? So Beis Hillel says you could go ahead and either move each and every board, because he obviously holds the boards are kosher stuff, these boards. So it's going with the opinion, according to Rashi, that even a 4 tefach board, Rabbi Yehuda held, it's not a problem. We don't make a zera. We don't make a decree that you can't use this, because if you're going to use these boards for a sukkah, you're going to use your house. We're not afraid of that. But the issue here is it was made for a house, and that's not a kosher. Even if it's kosher schach, but if it's made for a house, it's not kosher. It can't be used for a sukkah. So therefore, Beis Hillel says you got to just move each and every board. You move it. That's like you're building it from fresh. Or Beis Hillel says remove certain boards, put kosher schach instead, and then you're good. Bishlam Beis Hillel, the Gemara says, Taimayu mishum tasev lo min asur. We have 15a1. You have to make it for a purpose of a sukkah and not for something that was made not in a kosher fashion. But if you move the boards, right? You had the boards that you move them, avdei maaseh. You've done an action, right? You have to task it. You have to make it into a sukkah. So by moving each board, it's like you created the sukkah from fresh. And if you go ahead and you remove you remove certain boards, and then you go in and you place new schach of a maaseh. You've done an action. You fulfilled the responsibility of ta'aseh. You have to make for yourself a sukkah. You've done it. Ela Beis Shammai, the Gemara wants to understand Beis Shammai. My taimayu. What's the reason of Beis Shammai? Because what does Beis Shammai seem to indicate? Not only you move every board, you also have to remove certain boards and in place them kosher schach instead. If the issue is that it wasn't made in a kosher fashion, it was made for a house, and now you want to what? Turn it into a sukkah. So it should be sufficient either move each and every board which is your ceiling, and make it now by moving the board, it's as if you now have placed it. Is it clear? You've placed Eli's the name. What's the name? It's like you place nuschach or imishum zeres tikra, and if the concern is that you know what, these are not kosher schach. It's not kosher schach because we are concerned with 4 tefach wide boards, and people are going to make a mistake. If you use this for schach, you're going to come to go ahead and use your house ceiling for schach. So benotel achat menatayim sagi. So I should just have to remove certain boards and place new schach. What do I got to move every board, plus remove certain boards and place kosher schach? What's there? Kosher schach means, if this opinion is saying that the 4 tefach wide boards are not kosher schach. They're too wide. So I got a lot of these boards on top of me. So what do I got to do? So you go ahead, remove a couple of those boards. Let's say each board is 4 tefach. Remove, let's say, 2 boards that are next to each other. Now you have 8 tefach by 8 tefach. Throw some new schach, different schach on top. And then you sit under that area. You have now a kosher sukkah. Because a sukkah, it needs to be 7 tvachim by 7 tvachim. At least the area has to be 7 tefach by 7 tefach. So if each board is 4 tefach wide board, so what do? Remove 2 boards that are next to each other. Now you got an area of 8 tvachim by 8 tvachim. I'm going to sit under that spot, put a new schach. Well, what do I got to move every board? But Beis Shammai says, fake. You got to go ahead and move each and every board and remove certain boards and place kosher schach in instead. What do I got to do both? Beis Hillel, the Gemara says, is very good. Do either one. Because Beis Hillel holds that kosher schach, but it was not made for a sukkah. So either move every board, so and it's like you made it new, or remove certain boards and put in different schach. Okay, do either one, whatever you like. But why should you require both? That's the Gemara's question. If you hold that it's not kosher, if you hold that it's not kosher schach, and that's why you're requiring new schach, you don't hold moving every board is enough, so why have to move the boards for? That's the Gemara's question. Is it clear, Dr. Navid? That, by the way, that is one of the reasons why we don't use even boards that are smaller than 4 tefach boards. Even though the halacha says that technically the problem, we go with the opinion that says a 4 tefach wide board is a problem, but a 3 tefach wide board is good. But we're afraid that they're going to make the boards in a way that no rain is going to be able to come through. Similar to what you're concerned, therefore we don't use boards at all. The custom is we don't use boards, as schach. But the Gemara here is going with the original din of the Gemara that they weren't concerned that they're going to make it in a way that no rain will come through. So that's the Gemara's question. What is the understanding of Beis Shammai? Is everybody here, Eli, right? Is it clear the Gemara's question of Beis Shammai? You move every board and you replace with new schach. If you have to put new schach, what do you have to move every board? What do you say? Just take out enough and put new schach, or don't take out any schach, move every board. It has to be each a size of 7 tvachim by 7 tvachim, correct. It won't be 7 by 7. It will also be, you need the 7 tvachim next to each other. Kosher schach. 7 tvachim next to 7, the consecutive next to each other. So the Gemara says the following. La'olam, the Gemara says, really, the issue is Mishum Gzeirat Tikra. Beis Shammai is afraid of, now we're turning the page, everybody. 15a2. We're afraid of using your roof, that you're going to interchange the sukkah roof, the sukkah ceiling, for the ceiling of your house. Because listen, the size of the boards of your ceiling of your house is a 4 tefach wide board. This sukkah is also a 4 tefach wide board, the ceiling. You have the sukkah, these boards were originally boards that you made for your house. Now you want to turn it into a sukkah. So if you're going to allow the person to use these 4 tefach wide boards for the sukkah, they're going to think they can actually use the 4 tefach wide board of their what? Of the house. So therefore, you definitely cannot use these boards at all. So what's the idea? What does he mean by shaking every board? He doesn't mean that you need to shake every board. He means to say the following. This is what he means to say. Even if you go ahead and you untie every board and you untake all the nails out and you shake every board, it still doesn't help. You have to remove some of the boards and put kosher schach instead. If you remove one in between, I'll tell you what that means in a second. Then it is good, but if you don't remove one board, then it's not low, it's not good. The way the Gemara explained earlier, we explained last time, is let's say if you have a sukkah that has a number of boards, and let's say you had, next to the wall, you had a board, which is not kosher for schach, and yet, let's say you had 8 boards. So you go ahead and you take every other, between each and every board, let's say on the 4 boards on this side, remove board number 2 and board number 4 on the right side. And on the other side, do the same thing. Remove board number 2 and board number 4. So if you remove board number 2 and number 4 on the left side, and you remove board number 2 and board number 4 on the right side, what will happen is you're going to have board number 4 on each side will be empty space, And then you put kosher schach, and then you have 8 tfachim in the middle of a kosher sukkah. You got that? Let's repeat it again. If these are the board, if this is the sukkah is right here. Here's the walls of the sukkah, right? Table, here's the wall sukkah. I have board number 1, then I have board number 2. Take out board number 2. Now I have 4 tefach of empty space. Okay. Then let's say I go ahead and then I have board number 3, and then I have board number 4. So let's say if I take out board number 4, now I have empty space on number 4. Now on this side, board number 1, let's say I remove board number 2, I have empty space. Board number 3, I have board number 4, I take out the board. Now I have next to each other 2 empty spaces of 4 tefach. And then I could put schach on top, because now it's 8 tfachim by 8 tfachim. And as long as these kosher schach is not more than 4 amot from this wall, we could say that this wall will extend up to here, and I got, as if I have 2 walls on the side. It's called dofen akuma. It extends, and now I got a kosher sukkah. So that's what Beis Shammai holds. But Beis Shammai does not mean you need to shake every board, move every board. Beis Shammai means to say you just have to, shaking the boards will not help. You have to remove and put new schach. So the Gemara says, Ihachi ema sefer. I will show you how do you explain the sefer? Rav Meir Omer, Rav Meir says, no tel achat beinatayim. Rav Meir says you remove the boards and you place it with kosher schach of a lo yifak pig. You don't need to shake any of the boards, right? That's exactly what we're saying. Shaking the boards, moving the boards won't help according to this opinion, according to Beis Shammai. So Rav Meir hainu Beis Shammai. Rav Meir is saying the same thing as Beis Shammai. The Mishnah presented, Rav Yehuda quotes Beis Shammai's opinion, Beis Hillel's opinion, and the Gemara presented Rav Meir's opinion. So if you mention different names, different rabbis, so it sounds like each person is saying their own thing. This rabbi is saying this rabbi is saying that. Now we have different opinions of what to do over here. But the way the Gemara just answered and explained Beis Shammai, it comes out that Beis Shammai is saying the same exact thing as Beis Hillel. What is Beis Shammai saying? This structure that was made for your house, it wasn't plastered yet. And now you go ahead and you have to go ahead and you have to remove the boards and place them with kosher schach. And there's no need for shaking any boards. Shaking boards is not going to do anything for you because they're not kosher boards. And you're telling me that's what Beis Shammai holds. You just got to remove boards and put kosher schach in instead. That's exactly what Rav Meir said at the end of the Mishnah. Rav Meir says you put a new board, new schach, and you don't shake. So but it comes out that they're both saying the same thing. But the Mishnah presented them as 2 different opinions. So that's the meaning. According to what we thought before, Beis Shammai required to shake every board and to put in nuschach. So therefore he became a new opinion that we never had before. We had Beis Hillel says do either one, shake every board, put in nuschach. Beis Shammai says you have to go ahead and do both, and Rameh says only one. You only could do one, only place for nuschach. So there's three different clear opinions. But now we're saying Beis Shammai holds you have to put nuschach. Boards you don't need to do anything. Boards you can't shake, can't do it. They're valid. Rameh says the same thing. You have to put in nuschach. So that both Rameh and Beis Shammai are saying the same thing. So that's the Gemara's question. So that how could they be saying the same thing if the Mishnah presents a different opinion? Does that clear the Gemara's question? So the Gemara answered, Hachikama. What Rameh was saying, Lo nechlaku Beis Shammai uBeit Hillel b'davar zeh. Rameh says that which Rabbi Yehuda says that there is an argument between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. Rabbi Yehuda presented that Beit Shammai says, one, you have to go ahead and put in nuschach. And Beit Hillel says you could do either one, nuschach or move every board. Rameh is coming to say to Rabbi Yehuda, that's not true. You said, Rabbi Yehuda reported that Beit Hillel holds you could do either one, that you could use these boards. You just have to move, you could just get away with just moving every board. You don't need to put nuschach. Rameh says that's not true. The way Beis Shammai was reported that you have to remove nuschach and put in nuschach, that is what Beis Hillel also agreed. They're not arguing here. There is no machloket between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. The way you thought that Beis Hillel says you could do either one, that's not true. So that's why Rameh is a new opinion. What's his new opinion? He's going against Rabbi Yehuda's understanding. Rabbi Yehuda understood that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel argue about this issue, about whether you could go ahead and just do one and not, is one as enough? Is it enough just to move the boards? Comes Rameh and said, not true what you said. You said Beis Hillel says it's enough, you can either move the boards or put a nuschach. Not true. You must put a nuschach. That is Rameh's new opinion. So now the Gemara says, "My komash mula." What are you teaching us? The Rameh itlay gezerah tikra. So it comes out, Rameh is very concerned that if you're going to use these boards that are 4 tefach wide boards for your schach of your sukkah, you're going to make a mistake, and you're going to come to use the boards of your house, your ceiling of your house for during the holiday of Sukkot. You're going to say, what's the difference between these 4 tefach wide boards of my sukkah or my 4 tefach wide boards of my house? So you're telling me that the chidush of this Mishnah is that Rameh itlei gezerah tikra. Rameh is concerned for making a mistake and using the ceiling of your house. Rabbi Yehuda letlei, and Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned that you're going to interchange and make a mistake if you use these 4 tefach wide boards for sukkah as your ceiling. You're going to eschach, you're going to come to use your house. They already argued on this already. We already had the last Mishnah, which we spent a lot of time on, discuss this issue. Ditnan. We learned in the Mishnah earlier. You could use the Rabbi Yehuda. Yehuda says you could use boards as your ceiling for schach. Yehuda says you want to take, according to one understanding, if you want to take a 4 tefach wide board and go ahead and place it for your schach, for your sukkah, no problem. He says, we're not afraid you're going to make a mistake and interchange it for your house. Rameh says it's forbidden. So you already told us this. You already told us this dispute. We don't need 2 Mishnayot to say the same thing, right, Eli? We don't need the Mishnah on Yudalit and the Mishnah on Tezvah say the same thing. If you're not coming to tell me anything new, every Mishnah is telling me something that I didn't know in the previous Mishnah. You don't repeat the same idea, the crux of your issue is that they're arguing whether we make a gzera of a steel could use boards. You can't use boards. If you told me that machloket before, you don't need. Say it again. But the question. Right, but the question, but what is the core of the issue of what you're telling us? Right, so you already told me. Meaning, if Ramey is saying you must put in nusach, what's behind Ramey's idea? Because he's holding you can't use board, and Rabbi Yehuda says no problem. Rabbi Yehuda says that you could go ahead and use these boards for tzach. So we have that recorded earlier in the Mishnah earlier. So we don't need to repeat. That's the Gemara's question. We don't need to go ahead. Okay, but let's say very good. That's a good point. But that we're telling us Beis Shammai's opinion. That's what you're saying. Rabbi Shammai and Beis Hillel were not. They weren't. Okay, they were before. They were before. Shammai and Beis Hillel was before that. So Dr. David is asking that maybe the new novelty that the Gemara brought to us is the opinion of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, right? That's what you're saying. Maybe that's the new. So then, if that would be the case, so then we don't need the previous Mishnah. Meaning, if we're coming to tell us something that we didn't know before, we didn't know about Beis Shammai before, we didn't know about Beis Hillel before. Rabbi Yehuda is telling us, enlightening us, what Beis Shammai held and what Beis Hillel held regarding this issue, and Rameya is telling us what he holds about the issue. So at the end of the day, then we don't need that previous Mishnah. Then we don't need the Mishnah telling us whether you could go ahead and use boards or not use boards. Just tell us this Mishnah over here that tells us Rameya says you can't use the board, and Rabbi Yehuda says you could use boards. The last Mishnah just only told us. Yeah, but the last Mishnah opened up. That was the second clause of the last Mishnah. But the last Mishnah opened up with the following line. Look at the Mishnah on Yud Daled Amud Aleph on 14a. The Mishnah over Misachachin. You have the Mishnah 14a. In the art scroll, it's 14:3. Misachachin b'nisarim. You could use boards for the schach. Divi Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir Oseh. Rabbi Meir says you can't. That line. We'll be able to figure out exactly that line from what you're telling us in Tezvav Amud Aleph. So therefore, that's the Gemara's question. We're not repeating ourselves. If what we're saying over here in this Mishnah is exact, everything that we said over there could be deduced from here, or everything. Therefore, you don't need that Mishnah. So the Gemara is saying we have. It seems the way we're presenting it, we are. Presented both Mishnayot are telling us similar ideas, and it's not coming to tell us something new. And if it's not coming to tell us something new, that can't be. There's no such thing that a Mishnah, two Mishnayot are saying the same thing. So the Gemara answers, Oma Rav Chia bar Abba Om Rav Yochanan. So Rav Chia bar Abba says in the name of Rav Yochanan, we are now on 15.8.2 on the right side. The Reisha is talking about boards that you went ahead and you smooth the boards. And as a result of you smoothing the boards, they have a certain amount of use. And the question is, will people go ahead and say, you know what, meaning to say, these boards do not have the problem of 4 tefach white board. The previous Mishnah is talking about a 3 tefach wide board. A 3 tefach wide board, there's no, according to this, there's no problem of making a mistake for a ceiling of your house. Okay, so therefore, what's the problem, right? What's the problem but the problem is that since you smoothed it out, so people might, it has some resemblance of a utensil. A utensil is makabel tuma. A utensil, let's say something that has a receptacle that you could contain something that you can fill it up with, it receives contamination. And as a result that it receives contamination, so the utensil is forbidden to be used for schach, right? You can't use items that are makabel tuma, that are susceptible to contamination. A flat piece of wood, even when it's smoothed out, it's still not, and it's still not yet, it still could be, people could use it for building purposes. It's still not considered yet makabel tuma. It's not considered a complete utensil yet, even when it's smoothed out. But since it's similar to utensils, so therefore people might go ahead and make a mistake and think, if I could use this smooth piece of wood, I could go ahead and use what? A real utensil. So that is the issue. Mishum Zeirat Kelim Nagaba. The previous Mishnah, the argument between Rabbi Yehuda and Rameya is, do we make a gzeirah if you use a board, if you have boards, a flat wooden board that was smoothed out and still not yet mekabel tuma. It's not smoothed out in a way that it's already designated to be used as is for a chair or something, or for a table counter or something. It's smoothed out in a way, but since it resembles a utensil, so that's the machloket. Rameya says you can't use that board that you smoothed out because people will make a mistake. And however, Rabbi Yehuda says, say it again? Because this flat board is smoothed out. So once you smoothed it out and you smooth the wood, so it can, meaning it's something that has a use. If you would use it for a type of use, or as is, if you would designate it for some type of use as is, it would have use, like a utensil. So therefore, even though you're not using it as a utensil now, but since it looks and it resembles that type of utensil, maybe a tray. I don't know if a tray of something or something that you would sit on it. Maybe you will sit on such a smooth board. Maybe you would designate it for. So then it would. It's similar. It has use of certain types of use that people might say, you know what? What's the difference between this smooth board that I use as my schach or some other type of utensil that I use as my schach? People will not realize the nuances that this smooth board technically still was not yet susceptible to contamination, that other utensil was susceptible to contamination. So therefore, that is the concern. Do you make the gzeira or not? We'll continue tomorrow. It's time to daven. Have a great day, everybody. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Have a great day.